You won't believe what just happened. It was absolutely jaw-dropping.
Down on the glass. Last shot of the first quarter. It's in. Buddy Hield. Curry. Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield for three.
When you think of legendary playoff moments, names like Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler instantly come to mind. All-time greats, with resumes full of clutch performances. But in a winner-go-home Game 7, it wasn't any of those stars who stole the spotlight. The biggest impact came from someone else entirely. Buddy Hield.
Great job by everybody on the team except Buddy. Is Buddy included tonight? 33 points.
I plead the fifth.
When Buddy Hield drained that deep three to end the first quarter, I thought, okay, big-time shot, solid quarter, he's done his part. Because really, that's all you expect from a role player in the playoffs. Give us a moment, steal. A quarter, shift the momentum. But what Buddy gave us, it went way beyond that. This wasn't just a hot stretch. It was an out-of-body experience that might have Rockets fans staring blankly at their screens, wondering what just hit them. After a roller coaster of a series, some highs, some lows, Buddy chose game. 7 to deliver the game of his life. 33 points, 9 made threes. Let me repeat that. 9 three-pointers. An NBA Game 7 record. And just to put that in perspective, that's 3 more than the entire Houston Rockets team combined. He didn't. Just outshoot them. He outscored Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Dillon Brooks combined. So tonight, forget the sidekick talk. Buddy Hield wasn't Alfred. He wasn't Robin. Tonight he was Batman. Full cape, full mask, lights out from deep. And just when you thought that first quarter shot was his moment, he kept pouring it on. The second quarter was even better. Buddy was unstoppable. It started with a simple ghost screen. Both defenders stuck to Jimmy Butler, and he made the right read, kicking. It to Buddy, what happened next? Buddy put the ball on the floor, stepped back, and knocked down a smooth mid-range jumper. For a second, you had to ask, was that Jimmy? Nope, that was all Buddy Hield. And as good as Jimmy is, what Buddy did next? Even he would tip his cap. Again, Jimmy collapsed the defense and Buddy, always alert, drifted to open space, made himself a target, and cashed in another clean jumper. Just 6 minutes into the second quarter, the score read 39-31. That should tell you how tight this game was. Every basket mattered, especially in a low-scoring grind like this one. Then came a crucial mistake. Steph Curry was on the floor, guarded by Dillon Brooks. Brooks, caught up in trying to communicate a switch, completely forgot about the one man he shouldn't have lost sight of, Buddy Hield. And that's the Steph Curry effect. He didn't even need the ball, just a little off-ball movement. And suddenly Buddy was all alone, burying another three. Yes, Steph had his usual second-half brilliance, no surprise there. But this game, it belonged to Buddy. Just 20 seconds after that three, Steph brought the ball up again, and you'd think by now the Rockets would realize you have to contest everything. Funny enough, even Jimmy Butler once said, Buddy shouldn't be dribbling. Well, Jimmy, tonight Buddy wasn't just dribbling, he was destroying.
And Buddy, stop trying to dribble the ball. I hate that.
So maybe, just maybe, the Rockets should have made him dribble instead of letting him launch uncontested threes all night long. Because just 40 seconds later, it happened again. Jimmy Butler collapsed the defense, the closeout came flying, and Buddy coolly sidestepped into another three. Splash. If there's one common thread in all these plays, it's this. Buddy Hield was on fire, no doubt. But he was also surrounded by brilliance. This is what happens when a sharp-shooting role player gets to share the floor with two superstars. You had Steph Curry constantly shifting the defense off the ball. You had Jimmy Butler drawing double teams and collapsing everything in sight. Defenders were so terrified of what those two might do, they lost track of the guy who was actually torching them. That's the beauty of this new Warriors formula. Since Jimmy's arrival, we've seen role players like Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Quinton Post, and now Buddy Hield elevate their games. It's not a coincidence. Having Steph is already a cheat code. Pair him with a defensive magnet. Like Jimmy Butler, that's a problem no team wants to solve. And Buddy, he was spectacular. By halftime, he already had 22 points on 8 of 9 shooting, and when the game tightened in the fourth, he hit another clutch three, then iced it with one more for good measure. Look, I don't know where you were when this happened, but I'll Never forget watching Buddy Hield transform into the best player on the court. On the same floor as Steph Curry and Fred VanVleet, who, let's be honest, had been the best shooter over the previous 3 games. But tonight belonged to Buddy. 9 threes, Game 7, on the road. A performance that didn't just close out the Rockets, it lit up the history books. Game 7, on the road. With all the pressure in the world, especially after dropping the last 2 games, this was the kind of performance the Warriors had to deliver. And they did. Now, let's be honest. Anytime a team goes up 3-1 in a series and then lets it slip to 3-3, alarms start blaring. But not every 3-1 lead lost is a meltdown. Sometimes the other team just plays really good basketball. And credit where it's due, the Rockets were the number 2 seed in the West for a reason. They won 52 games and had the firepower to win. 2 straight, so no, it wasn't shocking. Sure, Game 6 was frustrating. The Warriors didn't bring the urgency or effort, and they paid for it. But to put things in perspective, Houston was just a 35% three-point shooting team during the regular season, ranked 21st in the league, even below the Warriors. From games 2 to 6, they caught fire, shooting 41% from deep, outgunning Golden State by 7 full percentage points, and don't even get me started on Fred VanVleet. He was in another stratosphere. That's the nature of the playoffs. You need your stars to show up every night and hope your role players deliver in the right moments. Luckily for the Warriors, Buddy Hield picked the perfect time to go nuclear in Game 7, but make no mistake, this wasn't just a Buddy showcase. The Warriors, as a unit, showed up. After slow starts from Steph and Jimmy, the second half became their stage. And yes, people were stressing over Steph's quiet first half, but let's get one thing straight. If Stephen Curry is on the court, he's the most dangerous man out there. Period. Even before he caught fire, Steph's gravity was warping Houston's defense. He was getting doubled, blitzed, and chased, not even scoring, yet still creating wide-open looks for teammates. That's why Steph will always matter, even when he's not filling up the box score. But of course, he did eventually fill it. Up, a couple of tough finishes, a big-time 3, and then, boom, the signature Steph dagger. That's what he does. That's why the Warriors are still standing.
Took one away, couple of steals. This is where the daggers come out too. Stephen Curry.
What stood out most? The way Steph and Jimmy mirrored each other all night. Neither was at full strength. Neither played a perfect game, but both showed why you keep them on the floor. No matter what. The playmaking, the clutch shot-making, the defensive awareness. They brought it all when it mattered. Jimmy, as always, gave you max effort on both ends. And while Steph doesn't always get the defensive credit he deserves, he was right there, working, switching, digging in alongside Buddy Hield to help hold the line. And speaking of defense, you can't tell the story of this game without mentioning Draymond Green. Sure, the box score shows he scored in double digits, and that's always a plus. But this wasn't about his points. This was vintage Draymond, a defensive masterclass from a guy who's been proving his worth as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate all series long. He was everywhere, bodying up Alperen Şengün, forcing tough looks, reading plays. Before they developed, blowing up passing lanes and rotating with surgical timing. That's what Draymond does. And in a game this tight, his fingerprints were all over the Warriors' defensive success. Draymond Green was everywhere. Just take this play. Şengün hands the ball off to Jalen Green, and you'd expect Green's speed to get him past Draymond to the rim. But this is where Draymond is different. He can battle in the post with a big like Şengün and still switch. Outstay with a guard and block the shot at the rim. That's elite-level versatility. Or look at this. Draymond shades over to help on Jalen Green, cutting off the lane. The moment Green dishes it off, Draymond snaps back to Steven Adams and swipes down for the steal. That's world-class defensive instincts. Perfect hands, perfect timing, and then there's this, just Draymond being Draymond. Jimmy's guarding Şengün in the post. Draymond sees Amen Thompson lurking in the dunker spot, a clear passing target. So what does he do? He baits Şengün by acting like he's helping on Adams, then spins back and blows up the pass to Thompson. That's high IQ defense at its finest. Draymond did that all series long, and now he's headed into a matchup that might light a fire. Under him, like never before, Draymond Green versus Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler versus Minnesota, Anthony Edwards versus Steph Curry. This next series, it's going to be something special. If you're as hyped for it as I am, hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns, and most importantly, have a great day. Catch you in the next one.